Hi, so my name's Adam and my practice is called SJB. Nice to see you again. You might ask why this project is in interiors rather than architecture, and I think importantly it's a small house in the centre of Sydney. It has a footprint of 27 square metres, an internal footprint of 23 square metres. So it's kind of not in the glamorous part of Sydney. It's in the kind of very cheek by jowl, kind of at the bottom of the hill, surrounded, incredibly overlooked by a lot of buildings. And I suppose when you think about a house of this footprint of 23 square metres internally, you really need to design the house from the inside out. The kind of interior spaces are what ends up making the architecture. There's kind of the architecture is a result of the internal kind of configuration. So just to talk through the way in which the house works, and then I'll kind of show you the house. This is the footprint of the ground level of the entry. So you come in off the street at the north. There is a small storage room for kind of all the detritus that you have in your life, a bike and wine bottles and things like that. And on the right-hand side, that image is a study which sits at the lowest level. It's semi-underground, and you can see those kind of slot windows. They're so that we get light, but people can't see in, so that people walking up and down the street can't see into the space. On the next level up is the living room, kitchen and staircase. The staircase is 600 mils wide. And again, the footprint is only 23 square metres, so it's very small. It's like 7.1 metres long by 3.3 metres wide. It's kind of the size of a hotel room. And in a way, it's probably important to think about, it's counterintuitive a little bit, but to make rooms rather than just make a space. So we worked a lot to try to ensure that once you're in that space, you're borrowing from other places. We're creating openings too and stretching and pushing that space to enable you to feel like the space is bigger than it actually is. The service spaces on the left-hand side are all 2.1 metre ceiling heights. And the spaces on the right-hand side, the living room, bedroom and study are all 3.6 metre ceiling. So that was the robe, and then you come up to the bedroom and the ensuite and then onto the roof. You can see here in section on the right-hand side, the first thing that we did actually in designing the house was commission this painting. It's by a famous Australian artist called Nicholas Harding, who tragically died 3 days after the painting was installed. It's a reading of the Gadi people of this place. It's a reading of the landscape prior to white settlements. So it was painted, and a lot of the kind of references that we then make through the house come from this painting. Importantly, I suppose, in the section, though, you can see the short spaces on the right-hand side, the 2.1 ceilings, and on the left-hand side, the taller spaces, and some of the ways in which we get light down into the bottom study space. The facade is a result of the interiors. So with a depth of only 3.3 metres deep, you could end up feeling like you're living in the street. You could feel very exposed. So the kind of arrangement of those windows are incredibly specific to the use of the space that sits inside, and they give a degree of camouflage to the way in which you live in the house. Just from the outside, those kind of windows, you can see the tiny little window up just next to one of the wren planters is actually the window for the dog. So it can see out. It's at floor level to ensure that there is so there's a high degree of specificity, and even at the bottom you can see those kind of thin windows which enable people to get light in without people seeing out. Just the rooftop, we've kind of taken the landscape up as a kind of external room, a kind of exterior space with the tree, and re-establishing the kind of landscape that used to exist on the site. Just the sense of entry into the main entry space, the storeroom straight above, and this kind of offering of the stair. The materials are mostly reused, so all of the bricks in the building were rejected from another project, and we kind of saved them for being crushed into road base, so that they were used again. This is the study that grabs its light both from these kind of almost slot windows into the street, and then the skylight that drops light from above, which is wrapped in gold leaf to drop a kind of a warmth of light into that study space. The study can be used either as a kind of small bedroom for when nieces and nephews come, but it's also a dedicated study for the owner. The bathroom on that lower level The taps are actually designed specifically for the house, so it's it's the idea of a bird sitting on the edge of a bird bath. So we've been working up these taps as part of the interior use. The stone in this level, in this bathroom, was all reclaimed from another job. And then the stair itself, which is only 600 mils wide, so it you're only ever 7 stairs from the next place. Importantly, in the living room, this is kind of living, dining, everything room. You can see how we've started to extend the space by kind of borrowing from this small courtyard, which is like 2 metres by 1 metre. The ceiling is quite tall. It's reclaimed Australian spotted gum. And then the painting itself. The brief we gave to the painter was just imagine you're standing here prior to white settlement and paint what you see. So he did a lot of research. The river that runs through it is actually kind of under the ground now. There's a kind of a stream that used to run through. And most of the colourings that come out of the painting come into the building. So the kind of use of the warm greys and the kind of ochres that exist in that kind of beautiful pinkiness of the sandstone that you can see in some of the parts of the painting. All the furniture is bespoke, so it's all made for the space. It's not the kind of building where you can buy a couch from IKEA and put it in. It needs to be very bespoke given the fact of the size of the space. And then these kind of slots that exist to kind of stretch the space. So this is looking in the 7 metre length of the room to the kitchen beyond and the stair. The house is not air conditioned, it's completely naturally ventilated. There's only ceiling fans. The bricks, as I said, were reclaimed. We did send these white bricks back to the brick manufacturer to ask him to glaze them so we could just get some subtle variation to the floor where we needed a higher degree of finish. The kitchen itself, it's 2.6 metres long. It's all in one material so that, it's kind of robust. And then there's a degree of playfulness and joy in the detailing of some of the elements. This window kind of is about being in the kitchen and seeing out. There's actually 2 windows. The timber window on the left is about getting ventilation into the kitchen, and the right window is about view, and that very much reflects the window sitting on the other side of the laneway and kind of brings that kind of external space internally. And then some of the playfulness of the handles and joinery details that we developed for the project to make sure there's kind of some fun and joy in the house. It's very... yeah, should be a fun thing. The staircase, as it kind of wraps up into the robe, which is kind of engulfed in this beautiful pink that came out of the painting, the main bedroom space, the bathroom on the upper level, and then the way in which the shower in that bathroom connects to the sky. It's very hard in a place that's completely overlooked by everyone else around it to feel comfortable being naked, but you can be naked to the sky. So getting the kind of skylight in and the garden in and pulling the rooftop garden into this space was super important. Again, the kind of detail of those taps, and then the staircase that takes you up onto the roof, and pushing the expression of some of the interior spaces into that roof. So that's the chimney. The house is passive house, so it's all been wrapped internally. But in Sydney, we don't really necessarily want a full passive house because we want ventilation. So it's kind of passive house when we close it down and kind of open house when we open it up. And then I suppose taking some of those references from the external into the interior and back out to the exterior again, the broken bricks at the bottom of the building and the glazed, the broken bricks were broken in transit, so we just reused them by kind of turning them on an edge and playing with the interface of the street. And again, I suppose the last thing is that this kind of seemingly random nature of the windows is incredibly reflective of what's happening internally. On kind of 23 square metres, it kind of achieves a lot in a very small space. And really that was part of the process of doing it, was to show people that you can live with kind of less is much more, or small is more, without having to have a small house where you had to kind of open your drawer in the staircase to put your underwear in it. Kind of wanted to be a small house that felt like a big house from the interior space. It kind of stretched and pushed it. That's the project.
Thank you. Presumably we're supposed to ignore the greenhouse.
The greenhouse was part of the project, but not part of this house. So it was a different part of the project.
So we're looking only at the narrow house?
Correct. The piece on the right was another part of the project, but not part of the house itself.
And it's kind of influenced because there's a dialogue of some sort.
Correct.
But anyway, we're looking, for the purposes of today, we're looking at the small house.
Correct.
and presumably the owner is not you.
The owner is me, actually.
Oh, it is?
It's me. My husband and I own this house. We did it as a case study project, really, because my clients were
Okay,
telling me
well,
what I couldn't
I'm
do.
very pleased to have asked that question, because I thought it was very knowing about the owner of the space.
Yes.
You know, there's lots of clues to your taste, like the Molino chair and the beautiful table with the beads of different sizes.
Yeah.
You know, it's very personal.
It is very
and I think that's beautiful. Anyway, I just... if you had a site that was twice as big, would you have preferred that? Or have you liked shoehorning yourself into this tiny site? For such a crafted environment, it seems it's slightly like a jacket that's too small.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a tailored jacket. You know, like we moved out of our last house because we spent 80% of our time in 20% of the house, and it was like, this is not a sustainable way to live. Like we wanted to show that you could live a really great life in a small footprint. And actually, this has led to another project, which is going to be slightly bigger. It's like 20% bigger, but it's two of them next to each other in a rural location. And I suppose the thing we've been excited about is people have really engaged with it. Like we get people outside the house all the time, looking at it, feeling it, wanting to understand about it. If we leave the gate open, people wander in. So it's kind of nice that the community they're kind of excited by what it's offering, I suppose. But yeah, the slightly bigger house that we're doing is because, you know, not everyone is going to have as kind of tailored life, and we want people to be able to live in a house that's kind of this small or almost this small, but actually just take the couch that they already own with them. So the next one we're doing is a bigger one, slightly bigger.
Yes, it seems to fit you like a glove. I was wondering about how you designed with the light. You told us a little bit about it, but has it daylight from two sides, or?
Yeah.
And from the top?
Yeah, from three. So it's got this kind of daylight from three sides. It faces due north, which is fantastic because we get with its depth of facade, we're able to kind of control how much light we get in. But little things like the bedroom is placed on the east facing, and I'll just show you, you can see in this image, it has a big window in the bedroom that faces east behind the curtain in this. So you get the morning light in. So the kind of rooms have been orchestrated around the house to appreciate the type of light during the day. They're all operable, so you get the capacity to get good cross ventilation, so we don't need the air conditioning. And that's that little window at the bottom, which is for the dog because he's tiny, so that's the space he can see out. So yeah, light from different areas is super important.
I want to ask, I'm sorry, I don't know your other work, so forgive me for not having actually read it. We sometimes do very site-specific work, and then we get clients calling us up saying, can I have one of those?
Yes.
And then we kind of try to explain, no, that was very specific. I'm just interested, you working for yourself here, how many of the choices you've made for this house, both material, the shape of the windows, the composition, is part of your normal work, or is very specific to this house, and the next ones are going to look very different in a very different spot or quite similar?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we were doing with this house was showing some clients that they were kind of showing the clients the things that they want us to do, but they never let us do. So, like, actually, rather than say, yes, just trust us, it's like, actually, we've built it, and now they're all like, oh, can we do that as well? And we're like, of course you can do that. It's kind of easy. But, I mean, I think, you know, with our developer clients we work for, you can't be this bespoke. It needs another kind of layer of rigor to it, which will happen on the next project. So standardising the windows. I mean, I think the kind of interesting thing in Sydney is that everyone just wants glass, right? So trying to convince people to not have a glass facade is really hard. But in this project, what we've been able to do is say, well, actually, let's just have a smaller window with a larger solid, and people are getting into that now. So they're kind of, our clients like, actually, I'm happy with that. Let's do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really great project, and coming from Japan, and you know, the Azuma house, which is only 15 square meters, and the couple live there, and now their daughter has moved in, and she's living there, and you know, it's nearly 70 years old. And there, the staircase is very much like your staircase. It's actually almost kind of invisible. You don't notice you're going up between the levels. Yeah. I particularly enjoyed the relationship between the facade and the interiors, and how it looks quite postmodern from outside, but then when you're inside, you have no sense of that because all of the windows are placed in exactly the right position. Can you go to the slide with the sofa and the painting?
Yes.
So is there a window below the sofa to get that light in? There's this light coming in.
It's actually on the opposite side of the room. So
okay, no, just go to the back one more. That one. So where's that light coming from under the sofa? Or is that is that a mirror
it's
there?
It's a mirror, yeah.
Ah, that's crafty.
Yeah. It's also it's got the air handling system in it too.
Okay.
For the passive house,
So it's little things like this, and that painting is amazing because you just think it's the view out the window.
Yeah.
And then there's also a shot from it in the kitchen where there's an arched window, and it looks but it's the window opposite, I think. So that's not an arched window opposite, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's both our window and its window are arched.
So those little things, that reference back across is really, really amazing. Yeah. So
just back to the paintings, I think it's a kind of gorgeous story. But the Nicholas knew he was dying when we installed the painting, and he had his 15 friends and us in this room for kind of 3 days before he died. It was a really amazing experience to have with him in this space. But it kind of just showed to us that the small footprint could kind of cope with that as a kind of event, I suppose.
No, I mean, I agree. I think the play with natural light really, really helps. I think that's how you maximize these tiny spaces, is that relationship with the natural light. So it's great. And I know we haven't got much time left over, just to say that it's a really lovely project.
Thank you. Thank you.